and welcome to the Yerky Boys. May the Candrona shine and strengthen you. My name is Will.
My name is Jonathan.
And we are the Yerky Boys. Oh man, we've got a special episode happening today.
We sure do, as teased on our previous shows. We are delving into the world of Animorphs fan fiction.
Yes.
And what that means is we are going to be looking at a handful of fan fiction stories written by fans from fanfiction.net, which is, as far as I know, the biggest and perhaps at this point only repository of fan fiction for various media on the internet.
You're very out of date on that, but I don't feel the need to move to like AO3 or whatever the new hotness beyond that
There's
is.
more? There's another
more.
one?
but fanfiction.net is where you would have been in 2001.
I just assumed like Reddit, like the rest of the internet, that everything gets consolidated into one website now.
Well, it is, but this is kind of like the old school, I think. There's like new hotnesses in the fanfic community.
Oh, interesting. Well, we'll get into this.
I'm pretty sure what I think of as the new hotness is old at this point, because I'm old.
Yeah, well, hey, we're doing Animorphs, so you're in the right place for being old and out of date, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, that's why I figure this is fine. Fanfiction's exactly where we want to be.
Yeah, well, to me, this is the new hotness. I don't know any better. But the way we're going to do this, there's a lot of Animorphs fan fiction. We'll talk generalities, but we're going to have multiple, I think, over the course of the rest of this podcast, multiple fan fiction episodes. But this season, we're doing 2, the one you're listening to now, and then another one next week. And each episode is going to have a sort of theme of a certain type of fan fiction that we're going to focus on, because otherwise it would just be too much to try to pack into one episode. Like, how do you even decide what to look at? There's thousands of these stories, right?
Yeah.
So this episode's theme, I'm referring to as new Animorph. You might call it, originally I was thinking of it as being a self-insert fics, but I thought that was maybe a little limiting, that there could be stories about new Animorphs that weren't necessarily self-inserts by the author.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the case. But
or like you can't tell necessarily, but they probably are, that kind of thing.
Right.
Or you can tell, and the author says, I bet you didn't realize that was a real person in one of their author's notes. That kind of thing.
We're gonna get into that. I do think it would be fun, since it's our first one, before we start talking about the stories we each picked, to maybe talk. I want to know from you, Will, what's your feeling about fan fiction? What's your history with fan fiction in your life? Were you ever someone who read or maybe even wrote fan fiction?
I have never written a fan fiction, and I have barely ever read any fan fiction. Like, probably a couple once or twice. I have never been in the fan fiction community in any sense.
Have you ever been in any community?
Yeah. You don't want to know about them, though, because you'll be like, oh, that sucks, and you suck.
That doesn't sound like me at all.
That sounds exactly like you.
I'm actually very supportive and welcoming and open to new ideas and concepts.
Yeah, you don't want to know about my involvement in like Bulbapedia and the Bulba Garden forums when I was a teenager.
Yeah, that was mostly about fucking the Pokemon, right?
Right, exactly.
That's what I figured. Yeah, I was never have been really a big fan fiction person either. When I was a kid, like, I don't know, maybe in the like 10 to 13 range, there was definitely a period where I would go online, and I'm sure I read Pokemon fanfics, probably some DBZ, stuff like that. But it's not something that has ever really been a part of who I am. Maybe people listening to this, maybe they don't even know what a fan fiction is. I guess it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, I don't really know. Do the listeners really need to hear what a fan? If you're a fan, sometimes you want to write a story about your cat, and you do, and you go online and you write it, and that's
Yeah.
fan fiction. And we've made references to fanfics before on this podcast.
Yeah, it is a thing. It's a thing that's out there. I don't feel like it gets. Maybe I guess I'm just not in those circles anymore. I feel like when I was a teenager, it seemed like more of a thing for people online, but I guess it still is. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, I've been tangentially connected to those circles enough to like understand some of the culture, but I've never really been in it. Now, you
It
said
just feel.
you've never
Yeah.
written a fanfic.
Well, I didn't say that actually.
I'm just there's the one in maybe we can come back to that at a later point. I think you might have had something you were about to say there.
Maybe next week we'll talk about it.
Oh yeah, that's true. That'll be more applicable next week.
Yeah, I might even have something else that you don't know about.
Oh shit. Oh
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Um, but anyway, I was gonna say I do feel like fan fiction feels to me very much, and again, maybe this is just because this is when we grew up, but it feels to me like something that's exclusively for a generation of young millennials who the era of my name is Black Dragon Rose 13
Mm-hmm.
online MySpace Zanga page. that kind of type, the
Mm-hmm.
sad middle school loner who doesn't have friends, so he or she writes about the characters they wish they were friends with.
Yeah, I mean that. I mean that is. I'm sure that type still exists. I am led to believe that fan fiction is still a thing. There's still stuff happening with this, and I suspect it's the same type of person. But I also suspect they behave very differently. But I don't know. I don't know anything about it really.
Of
I'm
course, you
old and
know
out of
the
touch.
the most popular fan fiction ever written.
I probably yes, I do.
Oh yeah, what is it?
Is it Twilight?
Well,
Or no, it's
is
50
it?
Shades of Grey.
Yeah,
Grey was a
right,
Twilight fan fiction, right?
right.
I
Yeah,
remember now.
that's
I
right.
got it all flipped around in my
That's
head.
where I was. Then when you said it, I was like, was Twilight originally a fan fiction? Because it's also yeah, but no, it
Yeah, no,
was
I just yeah.
yeah. So there's that. There's that. I bet there's some maybe more examples of things like that.
Yeah, there's a
Maybe
ton of that goes on, but I don't know about it.
I don't know. But anyway, it's fan fiction is often bad. I think it has a reputation for being bad. And maybe that will turn out to be true today or not. We will find out in our fan fiction episodes. I don't know if you want to say. I will say I found it interesting specifically for today's show, where we're talking about self-insert / new Animorphs fics. There were some like common themes that I noticed that maybe it'll be better to wait until or just discuss them as we come across them than to. But was there anything you noticed that seemed like trends amongst the stories that you read?
Yeah, he might have done more analysis on this than
You
than
really
I did.
didn't.
I don't know that I was really interpreting things in that way. I mean, to be honest, a lot of times I was more interested in like the author bios or the reviews.
Hmm. Well, that is interesting, and I do want to. When we do each story, I do want to say like when it was written and
Right.
who wrote it. Yeah, that's interesting. All right. Well, this episode's gonna be a disaster.
Yeah. Well,
Um.
I'm relying on you since this was your plan to do the fanfic episode. So you're gonna take
Okay.
the lead
Great.
and lead us
Okay.
through.
Okay, so
Let
now
us
that
know
you
what we got to
said
do
that,
here.
now you're just like that's for the listeners. For if this episode sucks, it's his fault. Is what
Yeah,
you
I
just
want them
said.
to know. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I'm glad.
The other
I'm
ones
glad.
aren't my fault either, just so you know.
No, some of them have been your fault. All right, so you want me to go first? So and maybe we'll talk about more than this. I think you had some extra ones. I don't care, but I specifically picked out five to highlight, and so the plan is that we're going to go back and forth talking about each one at a time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Honestly, I've got like three that I want to highlight and then like four more that I can talk about. So we'll make it work. I've got five pulled up here. I don't know.
And none of ours have overlap. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we shouldn't because I didn't pick any of the ones you said you were doing.
Next week, I'm not sure how that's going to go, but we'll find out next week.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I just kind of picked mine at random. It's not always easy to search for specific things on fanfiction.net. It's not the greatest search engine in the world, especially when you're looking for a category is kind of nebulous. Nebulous? Is that the right word I'm looking for?
Sure.
As this one, but I did my best trying to kind of predict what keywords would be in titles of stories of this ilk. So I'm gonna kind of start with the dumbest ones I found and then move on to some other ones. So the first one that I will introduce to you and the listeners is a story written by Guardian. This is their only fan fiction on here. And I do think that's interesting to know because some of mine are people who have written like multiple Animorphs fan fictions, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And this story was published in August 1999. So they're about a year ahead of us in terms of the books, but I don't think the series was over yet. No, it couldn't have been. And that's another thing, by the way, listeners, is we're gonna avoid spoilers for anything past the point we're at now on the podcast. There may be spoilers in some of these stories. I've been avoiding them, but we won't say them if they're there.
Yeah,
I know I won't because I'm not reading them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and some of them will say like this takes place in this specific time period or what have you. This one by Guardian that I'm starting with here is called Anna Dumb People.
Okay.
Okay. One word.
Yes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The description is a new morph-capable human joins the Animorphs, leading to tears, joy, pride, war. And I'll be honest with you, this one is kind of borderline not really in the spirit of the theme of this episode.
I think that's okay.
It's sort of it's like someone's attempt at a parody of Animorphs is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't tell from the title, it's very dumb. I'll read a little bit of it so you can get an idea of the type of prose that you can expect from this story.
Right.
Let's see. I'll just start from the very beginning. We can't tell you who we are or where we live. We forgot. It's too risky, although we don't know why, and we've got to be careful. Really careful. As in step on a crack and break your back careful. So we don't trust anyone, because if they find us, I don't know what would happen, but it would probably hurt. The thing you should know is that everyone is in really big trouble. Yeah, even you. And your little dog, too. Okay.
This is good. Do you think
good,
maybe we should do like full readings of these as an extra? We could put out like a little fanfic audio book.
That's on our Patreon. Yes,
Okay.
that will be there. All of these. Some of these that will be like hours of reading. One other thing I noticed in several of these stories is that no matter who the author is or what the tone of the story is, Marco always shines through for me. His character is so strong. It doesn't matter if you're good or bad at writing. Marco's going to shine through.
That was a thing that I discovered actually a lot was that, and I wasn't sure how much of this was because when I was looking at stories, you had pulled a list aside for me and I had been looking through this list. I didn't know how much of this was you're doing, but in a lot of these stories, Marco was like a primary point of view or like a love interest or like there was a lot of Marco.
Interesting. Yeah, no, purely not intentional. And that's not even something I don't think that's really true of my stories either. So
Hmm.
that's interesting. But at the beginning of this one, it does start. The eyes that stared back at him were perfect, so beautiful, loving, and happy. He could get lost in those wonderful eyes forever. They looked back at him with a seemingly identical wonder. He said nothing. He didn't need to. His heart joyfully reminded him of how lucky he was. It wasn't often that you found your perfect match. Marco knew the others wouldn't understand, so he didn't really say anything. He just continued gazing into those lovely eyes. Can you see where this is headed yet?
I think I can.
Marco, get out of the bathroom. Surely you've finished combing your hair by now. The voice of Marco's dad wafted up like a greasy, gaseous discharge. Marco
This is some good prose.
Marco knew that his dad was getting impatient and wanted to use the mirror too. Anyway, this story is not very long. I will sum up some of the highlights. It quickly goes off the rails into like beyond parody and like absurdist parody. In this universe of Animorphs, Marco's mom disappears when they're fishing and cement flies out of nowhere and turns Marco's mom into a nice garden statue. And his father decides to turn her into a fountain, but then a giant space hippo sucks his mom up into orbit. That's what happens to his mom in this version of the story. You do get a little fun. They have a lot of jokey parody names of alien races, as well as you get some epic random humor. For instance, they refer to the Taxmen and the Hoot and Jeers
I
and
like the
the
hoot and jeers.
the Hoot and Jeers and the evil Kirk controllers, but that's Kerk. Kirk. I don't. And James T. Kirk does appear at the end of this, but it's spelled correctly, so I'm not sure what Kirk is about. At one point, also,
is this the Yerk? Because they're talking about the Kirk Emperor here. I'm looking at
yeah,
your
yeah,
story now.
yeah. It is supposed to be Yerk. I just don't know what what the joke is. They just
Uh,
changed a letter, I guess. It's not like
yeah.
a pun.
Oh, you're not mentioning. See, now I've pulled up your story here. You're not mentioning Alaran's changed name, Al Gore semicolon Crabgrass.
That's right. Well, there's also you have Axel Rose Eggnog Isthmus.
Oh, that's good.
Is that how you say that? That's like a body of water or something?
Oh, wait, is it like an isthmus or is it?
Yeah, Isthmus. What is that?
God, I don't even
That's
remember. But it is some kind of. I think it's actually some way in which the land interacts with water.
Yeah.
But I don't remember.
There's also this. I did think this part was pretty funny. Jake made his way to the barn where the other Animorphs met. He liked the barn. I mean, who couldn't like such a great barn? He was sure it was a much better barn than one that could be built. Okay, blah blah. I don't know. I thought it was funnier in my head how much they liked the barn.
It sounds
Also,
pretty good.
Jake gets hungry and thinks that Axe looks like a giant waffle and starts gnawing on his leg. Anyway, to get to the heart of it, in this case, it's definitely not a self-insert. The new Animorph in this story is Chester A. Arthur. There's no explanation for why or where he comes from. Probably whatever child wrote this was studying him in school at the time and thought that was funny to throw him in there. And he becomes the new Animorph. They do actually mention, it says, Chester, because you are the author of this self-insertion fic. So clearly there's some
Right.
meta stuff going on here.
Yeah.
At one point, and after that, they announce he's in there. And for some reason, it says suddenly half a dozen Chinese came in and started applauding. I do not know. That's not brought up again. I'm not sure why it was Chinese people.
It feels a little racist.
Well, anytime you refer to them as just Chinese without the word people, that feels racist.
Probably because it is.
Yeah, correct. Anyway, there's more stuff like that, but this is, there were some things here I just had to talk about. And like I said, it ends with James Kirk appearing and attacking them. And there's not really a conclusion. It just sort of ends in the middle of a story. The reviews are real positive for this one. People liked it. Except for one person who said your fan fiction sucked.
Oh, except I'm looking at this. I think this person's joking
Yeah, I think they
because
are too.
they
I
say it
think,
violated the rules. I'm going to have to report you right now. So I
yeah,
think they liked it.
I think you're right. So anyway, but I think this fanfic does a good job. I guess we'll link these in the show notes, by the way, if people want to read them for yourself.
Okay.
Uh, this does a good job exemplifying kind of maybe the low end of what people think of when they think of fan fiction.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Even though this one is at least self-aware. It's the kind of some of the, especially next week's fix, but some of these ones I read, they hurt me because they feel like, oh, this is bad, and also I would have written this when I was 12. This was my sense of humor, and that's kind of what this is.
Well,
Maybe it
I'm
still is my sense of humor. I don't know.
maybe. I mean, you liked it.
I liked it. Mine, like as I said, will get progressively less stupid. So that's Anna Dumb People. I'd
Okay.
like to hear about yours.
Okay. So I wasn't planning to do this one, but since you started on that, I think this is actually a really good follow up.
Okay, good.
So this story is called The New Kid. It's by user Astro Dragon. And it was written in July of 2003. It says, or the description is, there's a new Animorph and his name is Keith. Can Keith defeat Visor 3? Read and review. So,
All right.
I'm just going to say up front, before I even start, because I could like try to drop a twist on you, but I think it doesn't really work unless you're reading it. What makes this one good is that this one is a troll. This story is not a good faith story. It is an intentionally bad story. But I think it's actually really well done in that the first chapter is about as bad as it could be and still potentially be believable. And the second chapter, it's practically unreadable. There are some very good things here. We start off with Keith is a new kid in school, and he's being bullied here. Now, the bully has a name. Where the heck is this bully's name? Because it's a real name.
Eric.
Yeah, Dan something.
I was trying to come up with the Columbine shooter's name. Sorry. Klebold? Doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Okay. The point is that it's clearly his actual bully in real life, or at least the fictional Keith's bully. Jake comes in and stops it and stops the whole thing. He comes in. I'm trying to figure out if I should read any of this or not. It's very good though.
Well, give us a taste if it's appropriate.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's just start reading here. Okay, new kid, give me your lunch money and maybe I won't hurt you, said the bully as he pushed Keith inside the bathroom. Keith was afraid that he won't get beat up, but he didn't have any lunch money because he broke cold lunch and didn't buy lunch from the school. But I don't have any lunch money, he yelled unhappily as he tried to get away from the bully, but the bully caught him before he could get away. What? That's just too bad. I guess I'm going to have to beat you up then, the bully laughed as he punched Keith in the stomach. Ow, Keith yelled as he stumbled back from the bully. That hurt a lot. And that's just for starters, the bully said meanly as he laughed. The story's
meanly.
Yeah, it's quite good. But Jake comes in, he drives Dan off. So Jake and Keith here become close friends. They find out they're in the same class together. We find out a little bit about Keith here. Keith is 13, not very tall, about average. He has blonde hair and brown eyes and freckles on his face. He doesn't like his freckles very much. He was wearing a red Dragon Ball Z t-shirt and blue jeans and black sneakers too.
Cool. My kind of guy.
Yeah, that kind of guy. One of the things that I like about this fic is that every time there's an OU, they flip it. So about becomes like abort and could becomes like Claude.
Now, you're saying you think this is a troll fic?
I think this is a troll.
Like they
Yes.
intentionally did it badly.
They intentionally did it badly. And like I said, you can't tell from the first thing. But if I get to the second chapter, it's just like a giant wall of text. Barely any of the words are spelled correctly, and it ends with like, after that, they told the army about the Yerks in Visor 3, and they killed all the Yerks and all the Taxons, but they didn't kill the Hork Bastards. They were really good and not bad, even though they looked kind of scary. Keith and to Animorphs were thumbs, and Keith was the most famous because he was the hero in God Visor 3. To end! Now, what makes this story great
That
for
was
me
good.
is the reviews, because people fell for this and got very upset at him.
Really?
Now, here, I'll read a review here by A.S. Amelon. Uh, and she writes, "Do you even read Animorphs? None of them, especially after David, would ever give the morphing power to someone so easily. I'm not even going to bother reading the next chapter. I'm usually a very nice person, and I don't flame, but this sucks. Badly. And the spelling and grammar mistakes are atrocious. And the paragraphs? I won't even go into that. Sorry, but either learn how to write something that showed that you actually know what you're talking about, or just quit writing. I've seen 4-year-olds write better than this. And learn to spell! Spell check isn't perfect, but it's 1,000,000% better than what you have here. Please, don't do something like this ever again. It's a disgrace to all fanfic writers everywhere. When you actually have a decent original storyline and a well-spelled fic and some paragraph spacing, please try posting again, but until then, stay away. Signed, Alara Serenial Amelon." There's more of those.
When was this published and when was that review written?
That review was written in July of 2003.
And that is that when the story came out
That
too?
is when the story came out too.
And so I'm just trying to. Okay, so the series, when did it end? Like, was it over in 2000 or was it?
Yes, it was over before September 11th. I know that much.
Okay.
I don't remember if it was late 2000 or early 2001, but
it's still, at this point, it's still like all the books are on shelves and everything, so people are still.
yeah. So
But
people
okay.
know.
But I just like that this person has that high of a standard for Animorphs fan fiction. That
Yeah.
That's a great review.
Oh yeah, there's more here. There's where this person says, like, your profile reads that you're 13, but your writing suggests that you are more around the age of 7, or perhaps are a rather intelligent chimp.
See, this is interesting because some of the ones that I've been looking at that are written pretty poorly, I still have pretty positive reviews that people seem to be into them no matter what. So I wonder why, if it's just that's just if that's not the norm, or if
It's
I don't
definitely
know.
not. These were by far the best reviews that I found anywhere. And maybe it's telling that on the actual bad fix, people were like kind of supported or breezed past, but the person who wrote a bad one on purpose managed to catch fit. Like, whoever wrote this knew what he was doing, maybe.
I
Keith, I
guess.
suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like a troll thing, but it sounds like they did actually kind of still insert themselves. We're thinking that's
Yeah,
like a real bully.
yeah. I mean, I'm thinking they like, the whole thing is that, like, you're supposed to think that they inserted themselves.
Okay, yeah, we got to find this person who wrote this.
Astro Dragon.
Astro Dragon. Yeah. Okay. I like the name Keith too.
Yeah, it's quite good.
It's such a. I mean, it's just a normal name, but for some reason, it's funny. It's Keith, the hero Keith. I feel like if
Now,
it were Animorphs, it would be spelled like with 2 E's or something, though.
that's probably true, yeah. Now, if your name is Keith and you're listening to this, we're not making fun of you.
I am. You have a stupid name. Okay.
Well,
all right.
that's the new kid.
The new kid. Good one. A lot of these, by the way, are titled The New or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I mean, anyway. Okay. Here's my next one. Now, there are two things I also say that are sort of being introduced now, or that I will say now. Two of the recurring things that I noticed. One of them is kind of what was in that review you just read.
Hmm.
A lot of these stories had a moment, at least a line or two, where when there's a new Animorph where somebody says, "Oh, we don't want this to turn out like David,"
Hmm.
or it's actually, I think, yeah, this is a good time to do this one post David trilogy. Or there'll be a line like when they got to get him new morphs, and they'll be like, anything but a lion, you know.
Hmm.
So it seems like a lot of people felt like they had to get that in there. Although none of mine, this person's like, they would never give it to them that easily. In none of mine was there any conflict, or maybe there was a little, but it wasn't. You would think after David they would never do it again. They seem like they always are pretty happy to give someone powers. Um, the other one thing is, what was the other? Oh yeah, the other thing. Most, if not all, of the rest of mine, the new Animorph in question is some kind of an outcast, or like has a disability or condition of some kind. Uh, it's not just like a quote unquote regular kid. There's like
Hmm.
something about them that it seems to me like the author maybe in real life was kind of estranged, or not part of the cool kids groups, and felt the need to write these stories.
I've seen a couple of those, but then I've also seen some of the ones where the author is just going crazy with what they're doing with themselves. One does stand out to me where there was one that I didn't end up doing, where the main character was a girl who didn't she had lost one of her legs in an accident. And then there were like 3 or 4 reviews that said, "Oh, you should give her back her leg in the end, and then she could have a normal life, and it'd be a happy ending." And I was like, "That's kind of fucked up thing to say."
Well, it was a different time.
Yeah.
Well, this one that I'm going to read to you now, well, not that I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but that I'm going to introduce
Mhm.
now is written by Athena's Wiccan Guardian.
Oh man, I'm
And
excited.
that's Guardian is spelled without a U. Guardian.
Guardian. Okay.
They've written a few. They have a couple Animorphs, a couple Harry Potters, and a couple Stargates. I don't know.
Hmm.
This came out in 2002. This person published a story. It's called The Albino Animorph.
All right.
Although, if you're to read it phonetically, it is the albino Animorph.
The albino Animorph. Oh man.
So here's how it starts. Back before I ever saw the alien walking through the woods, I was a normal kid. Oh, hell. No, I wasn't. I'm white. Whiter than a piece of notebook paper. In fact, the only part of me that isn't white is the irises of my eyes. Weird, huh? Well, I'm an albino, and my life was sort of screwed up. No, wait, I thought I had no parents. I grew up in an orphanage till I was 12, then I ran off. Anyway, on with the story. I'd been living on the streets for a few years when I decided to go to the woods. Okay, so basically, this character, I don't know if you ever find out their name, does like a Without a Trace thing. You remember that movie? They live in the woods. They run away from the orphanage at age 12 and just live on their own in the streets. By the way, the fact that they are albino, I'll just say now, really has no bearing on this story. It really seems like the person who wrote this just in real life just felt there should be albino representation in the media, and they wanted this to be them. So that's an aspect of the character.
That makes sense.
Albinism is an interesting condition because it's not really there's not really any negative aspects to it, right? Other than maybe you can't go out in the sun as much, but that's a lot of people. So there's not like it's a condition, but it's not exactly, it's not the same as like you're in a wheelchair or something. You're not like
I'm waiting for all the
fun.
hate mail from people
I
suffering from.
know, I know, and I'm sure I'm being ableist on a number of fronts here. I'm just walking in a minefield right now, but it feels like, let's put it this way, it's pretty safe to make fun of albino people. It's kind of like a step above
I mean,
alopecia. It's like, yeah, I guess you're missing something, but does it really affect you? I don't know that it does.
I mean, it almost feels like it's like it might even be like the opposite of that, because I feel like if you're an albino kid, you probably I feel that almost feels like a offensive phrase the way that I'm saying it. But if you were in school and you were an albino kid, you probably got made fun of a lot for
That's
it.
true.
And
That's
probably
true.
because of the reasons you're saying, nobody stopped anybody. Like if everybody was like, if somebody goes around being like, look at that kid in the wheelchair, a lot of other kids would be like, dude, the fuck? That's not cool. But if you were
No,
like,
that's a
look at the
good
weird
point.
looking kid, it's kind of like, oh yeah, the weird looking kid. Everybody can make fun of the weird looking kid. That's
Yeah.
fine.
No, you're right. Like physically it's not that different, but yeah, people will
Yeah.
other especially kids will be pretty mean to you about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my assumption anyway.
Okay, yeah, you're right. You're right. Sorry, Athena's Wiccan guardian for being insensitive. Something else I noticed about a lot of these stories is I don't know if it was something about keyboards at the time, but a lot of people like found very different ways to indicate thought speech.
I
Like
think
in
there's
this,
something in the upload because almost nobody
oh
had them. And some people like had the uploads where they just didn't have anything around the thought speech at all and like wrote author's notes that said like I don't know why it didn't show up or something.
yeah, I have seen quotation marks. I've seen it's just in bold, parentheses, brackets, like
Oh,
anything but
y-
actual.
you know what? It's probably something to do with like HTML. You're uploading it and it's reading
Yeah.
the thought speech as
Oh
a tag or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, that is probably what it is. It's so
Yeah.
funny that there was HTML for why? It's just a text file. Why was it like that? Okay. Anyway, back to the albino Animorph.
Yeah.
um so anyway, the albino Animorph is in the woods and ends up hearing the other Animorphs and they they start, going after him because he overheard them and they think maybe he's a yerk. I'll just cut to the chase here. It turns out by the end of this, the Elemist shows up. By the end, there's only 2 chapters and they're very short. In
Yes,
chapter 2,
I did click on that and I noticed chapter 1 default chapter 2 meeting with the Elmist.
that's right. The Elemist appears and reveals that the albino Animorph is his son.
Oh man.
And this is why he like it's a little confusing because in the story he seems to have knowledge of certain things, like he kind of knows what yerks are but not really, and you're like, and he can like hear thought speech which I guess everyone can. I don't really know. He seems to have powers but not know everything, so it's sort of confusing, but apparently it's because he's the Elemist's son. And the Elemist is like, I don't want my son to get involved with you Animorphs.
Mm. Yeah,
And
that
that's
sounds like
it.
what the Elmist would say.
Yeah. And albino Animorph faints, and also the reaction to finding out, by the way, is Marco says ew. And somebody goes, that's sick, and someone asks, who's the mom?
Mm.
He faints, albino Animorph faints, and then it says, interesting, don't you think? Next chapter will be in about a week. Sadly, the next chapter never came. So we do not know what happened to the albino Animorph, but this is the example of a story that I was going with that is written pretty poorly, that the reviews are all like, hey, this is cool, keep going, can't wait to read more.
Yeah,
So
no, I like some of these reviews. I like this guy who asked if he gets the ability to morph, will his morphs be albino?
yeah, yes. That one is amazing.
What about name the albino Edgar, meaning great spearman? And add a cool suffix if you want. Try Edgar Sky, meaning great spearman of the sky, or Edgar Yami, meaning dark spearman, or even Edgar Nami, meaning ocean spearman. I like the last one the most.
This person just giving their suggestions for names, as and not questioning why they didn't name their own character in the first place. I still don't.
Maybe it's Athena.
Maybe it is. I don't. I assumed it was a male albino, but to be honest, it's not. I don't even think
Well, oh yeah,
they
it does say my
say.
son.
Oh, right. Yeah, my son. Right. Well, the name is Athena's Wiccan Guardian. So
Hmm. Okay.
this is the guardian of Athena. I don't know.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Anyway, the rest of my stories are much better written. The first two I picked are pretty bad in that regard, but this, like I said, this is the first of my examples of kind of outsider self inserts.
Okay.
So there's that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. It's
yeah.
good.
Hmm.
All right. So I'll give you this one called The Amazing New Animorph by Kristen
Okay.
G. Uh
Wait a minute, not by Annie?
Not by Annie, by Kristen G. This was written in 2005. Uh there is a new Animorph, is the description. Anne is new to the town, but she bears a power that could bring the end of the Yerk invasion or the end of the Animorphs. And I'll just read you the opening bit here. We'll see how you feel about this. I
Yeah.
thought I was alone in the woods. Alone, I could remove my patch without having to worry about moral repercussions. Alone, I could finally see rather than live in the mind aching blur that I have always had to put up with for the common good. But what I loved seeing without handicap were leaves. With my patch on, they were a dissatisfying green blur, all intricacies lost, in the way that the Grapes of Wrath was completely lost on my English class last year. Me, it's beautiful, inspiring, it shows you why we need unionizing and what a taste of decadence can do to people. Class, I'm bored.
I mean, I love that. I'm glad they demonstrated their understanding of Grapes of Wrath because honestly, I didn't get it until now.
Yeah, well, I mean, this person is clearly, they're no Philistine.
But I don't. Am I
So,
supposed to understand the patch? What the fuck is this?
not yet, but what ends up happening to this person is they get found out by the Animorphs in the woods. But the point is they have a cursed eye of some kind of unknown power. Now this is also a single chapter long, so we don't really find out the specifics. But Anne's eye has been somehow cursed, and she needs a patch over it in order to seal the power away. You see,
Okay,
and at
kind
first
of a
she thinks she's killed
Cyclops.
Tobias here because she looked at him.
Okay,
um, so there, there's a bunch of the Animorphs come and they put like a bandana around her eye, but I knew in a few hours it would fall apart. Um, and we get a little bit of backstory eventually. If you want her backstory, because it's mostly they take her to the barn and they interrogate her because they don't know if she's safe. The Animorphs all do.
sure.
So we get her backstory. Um, my father works at a clothing manufacturer, and often has to deal with things outside of the company. So one summer when I was 13, he brought my mother and me to Japan for his business trip. I had been hanging out at a sacred temple, but I got bored. I started exploring the temple and I fell down these stairs. Down and down I fell, and then suddenly this spike coming right for me, a burial marker. I saw the red characters on the spike mingle with my blood for an instant, and then some strange mystical creature saved me, gave me the blessed eye patch, but it told me, you have further work to do. Leave on the patch and accept the sacrifice. The Elemist? Cassie said, to no one in particular. I shrugged.
That's what I was saying too.
Yeah, right? Could be. And we do get a couple more good Marco moments here where, he's saying that he's a chick magnet and all of that kind of stuff. But basically, she has a magical eye, and Eric the Chi is here to inform them about a special mission, and maybe she'll be helpful because she can look at the Yerks and blow them up. There's not that much more to the story. We don't really get a continuance of this one, sadly,
But
because it
this is
felt like it was really
interesting.
yeah
Yeah, she's not just is a she, right?
yeah.
She's not just a new kid. She's got like her own superpower that's completely different from morphing.
Yes, and this is see, now that we're getting into them, I'm thinking of the trends that I hadn't considered before. This is a trend that I found all over the place. Like there are a lot of self inserts where they just come in and it's like, oh, they also can just do this, or they just have this.
Huh.
Oh, there's one where she just has like Sabrina the Teenage Witch powers the whole way through, and it's never really adequately explained why.
Huh. Yeah, that did not come up really in mine. I also think you read more than I did. I kind of just like picked the first ones I saw.
Hmm.
So that's interesting. It feels very anime to me. The
Oh
eye
yeah,
thing.
oh yeah. Like when I started reading it, I was wondering if this was like some Naruto crossover or something, and she had, the
Yeah.
Sharingan. Uh,
I'm thinking Yu-Gi-Oh for some reason. I don't know if that's really right, but
yeah, I mean maybe.
or like I don't know, is Yu Yu Hakusho kind of like a doesn't he have like a magic vision or something?
I think
I don't know.
somebody probably does at some point in that show.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know
But
about
yeah,
these
it's
things.
very. This person clearly was very into anime.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Lil
it's
Maniac reviews this saying, interesting is all I can say. Who gave her the power? That is the question. Keep it up. I'll be waiting for more. So that's what Lil Maniac thinks about that.
but we never found out.
We never found out, no.
It is
That's,
kind of sad. There's a common trend of these fanfics is them not being finished.
yes, that's normal.
And many of them saying, "Stay tuned next week for the next chapter," and it does not come.
Hmm.
It's a real shame. It's a bit of it's a graveyard of lost and unfulfilled potential. You know,
Yeah, I feel you.
Hamlet.
Hit me with your next one.
Oh, okay. I'm excited about my next ones. So, this one is called Seventh Animorph: The British Invasion.
Ooh.
Invation. Invasion. This is written by Sarah Purple, and she has a profile pic which looks straight out of her MySpace page from. Actually, this was written in 2013, so this is a very recent one, all things considered. It's a decade old, but
Yeah.
I feel like most of these come from like early 2000s that I've seen. Um, I don't know why. Again, her photo. I guess maybe in 2013, MySpace might have still been a thing. I don't know, but it looks like that. Anyway, here's how this one goes. My name is Sarah. I can't tell you my last name. Okay, let me just say right now, a lot of these, especially the longer ones of these, there were sections that I definitely skimmed through because it seemed like a lot of them have the scene where, first of all, the gang has to explain all the exposition that I already know,
Hmm.
and or the scene of, well, we got to go get you your morphs at the gardens. Like there, one or two of them have just scene after scene of, and then we went to get dolphins, and then we went to get a bird for them. I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, I don't need to, like, this is giving me nothing that I need
Yeah,
to read.
there were a lot that I read that was just, yeah, it was one chapter, and the chapter is literally just the intro chapter that's like, I'm the new Animorph, but before I can tell you about that, let me give you the word for word Animorphs exposition that appears in chapter one.
Yeah.
Okay, end of first chapter. Let me know if you want more. And then there's no more.
Yeah, 100%. It does occur to me that Animorphs might be a fairly easy series, especially for younger people to write fan fiction of, because there are so many recurring elements that
Hmm.
if you just you put in certain things and it kind of sounds pretty close to real Animorphs just because you know what a morphing scene is supposed to read like, you know.
Right.
Anyway, last time I had an albino person. The gimmick of this one is that this Animorph, as you might have guessed from the title, is British. That's her disability.
Oi, governor!
Yeah, so this whole thing you have to read in an accent, and she's moved to America, and actually part of her character arc is that she's worried she's losing herself, like she starts to get an American accent and she's
Mm.
homesick.
My name is Sarah.
And there is an exchange where she corrects her teacher like on how to say her name, and I don't the way it's written, she wants it to be said is Sarr dash RA, like Sarah, I guess is the British Sarah. I is
Sarah?
or is
Is
it
that real?
or Sarah or so, I don't know. My
Sarah?
my sister's name is Sarah, and I say Sarah. I mean, I don't say it like that, but Sarah,
Sarah.
Sarah. I don't know. When I was, I
The
don't know.
British people are weird. It's really the English. English people are weird and fucked up, and honestly are kind of subhuman in a way, if you
Yeah,
think about it.
I mean, we don't need to get into that, but anyway, she makes a reference to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's fun. But the best part of this is very early on, when oh wait, was it? Oh no, now I'm like, wait, am I thinking of something from a different fanfic that I read? But I thought it was this one. Yeah. It's this one. It's this one. Uh, she's leaving from class, and Marco shows up,
Ooh.
and Marco says, "So it was worth it." Sorry, don't be. Like I said, it was worth it. Sorry, worth what? What was worth it? The wait to hear you speak.
Oh man, what a charmer.
I've only been waiting, what, 2-3 months for you to say a single word, and you go and grace me with a full sentence. And then he says, I don't usually go for the girls with accents, but after this morning for you, I'm willing to make the exception.
Oh
So
man.
this is a good example of Marco really coming through for me. And then she immediately asks him on a date. Why? Because she wants to use him to get out of the sharing meeting that her parents want her to go to. This is another common thread I in some of mine is either the parents and or the kid like being new in town and being roped into sharing meetings.
I didn't see a lot of sharing, surprisingly.
Yeah, it makes sense because it's a way for you to get wrapped up in yerks without like literally just tripping over the Escafil device, right? So anyway, there's that. Again, this person is British, and there are 4 chapters of this one, so it's a little longer than the others, but some of them are shorter than other chapters. And she ends up going to the sharing meeting, and she like makes her way into the inner sanctum part of the meeting that newcomers aren't supposed to be at. It's like for the already yerk infested controllers. And she actually like is incognito in this meeting while Visser 3 and Chapman are up at the front talking about yerks, and she has no idea what they're talking about. She's like, who are the light bandits? I don't know what's going on here. And the story ends. It was never continued after that. The other Animorphs like don't even show up. She doesn't become an Animorph, actually.
But she gets to flirt with Marco. I mean,
she flirts with Marco, and she gets into a sharing meeting, and she's like, what the hell is going on? And what is that? She sees him morph into an Andalite, and she's like, this is weird. But
there was a lot of morphing into Andalites in these stories, which is weird because they never morph into Andalites in the books, right? Like at this point, we haven't they morph into animals.
Oh, interesting. I don't think I saw that. You're like the Animorphs themselves.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of times where they'll be like, and then he morphed into an Andalite or something. It's weird.
That makes sense to me because I do think, for kids and fans of the books, the Andalites are very. You want to know more about them. They're like weird looking. They're interesting. So probably they're like, oh, if I could morph, I'd want to be one because they're cool. But yeah, I did sort of like the angle of this one of the British part. It kind of fizzles out, but I don't know. This one is Seventh Animorph, the British invasion.
Pretty good. Or invitation, invasion. Maybe
Most of
that's
the
how they say
spelling
it in
and
England.
maybe it is. I was gonna say the spelling and grammar in this one is pretty good, so I'm surprised they have that typo in the title. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Uh,
Maybe it is a British thing.
you never know what they're doing over there.
You never know. All right, what's your next one?
All right, so this is Animorphs, the New Girl by Secretly Laughing. I'm just going to read her bio here on her page. She says,
Oh, good.
"Hello, I'm a bouncy, energetic girl who loves to read and write and loves to sing, but that really has nothing to do with anything, but my rambling words rarely have anything to do with each other. Toodles, Penny." So this is Secretly Laughing's story here.
Cool.
A new girl
That's
finds
me.
the Animorphs. She shares their powers. She shares their mission. Can she share the Animorph name? This is written in 2008 and last updated in 2010. So
Wow.
relatively new.
Yeah.
All right. So she starts this off in Sparrowmorph. She's perching in a tree and she's spying on the Animorphs. And they basically one of them looks around. Marco is looking around, and he's kind of suspicious. And he's like, for all we know, that little sparrow might be a spy. And they're like, oh, that's stupid. Who would be stupid enough to morph something so obvious? At which point she gets pissed off and demorphs. Right. So she starts off this already able to morph. They don't know who she is. This girl's name is Anna. Um,
Morph? Is her last name Morph?
could be. Could be. So she starts off introducing herself to everyone here. There's a lot of points where there's just like a lot of people introducing themselves, whatever. Um, she and Marco kind of got off on. It's a little flirtatious to start.
Mm.
She is Latino, and she
Oh.
calls him burro, idiota, estupido. It's a little sassy.
Wow.
Now, Jake in
Ooh.
this fanfic is a little, he's a little intense. I'm gonna read a line here. Jake turned to me. Anna, he said slowly, deliberately, we trust you, but mark my words, girl. If you do anything to break that trust, I'll kill you.
Holy shit.
So this is chapter 1, and what I like about this is that there's somebody here called Captain Nerefear who is reviewing this, and every chapter Captain Nerefear has some things to say. Captain Nerefear starts off by saying, I'm always wary, to use an understatement, of fics that involve a new Animorph. So that's where we're starting off here. We also find out in this first chapter that she used to live with the Andalites.
Okay. So
Now, that's chapter 1.
So
So
I have
yeah.
questions.
Tell
So
me,
maybe I should just let you.
No.
Well,
I'm curious what you're thinking in chapter 1 here before I take this any farther.
I mean, first, the idea of the Animorphs being suspicious of a sparrow makes no
Right.
sense because
Right. And
they're
Nerefear
not,
brings this up. Yeah.
yeah, they're not Visser 3. They're pretty sure they're the only morphers. Like they're not suspecting any morphs.
Mm-hmm.
But also, yeah, I'm just wondering why can they morph? So I don't.
Mm.
I'm hoping that gets cleared up.
Oh, well, let's see what happens. So we're going to start chapter 2. And the first thing that happens here is Axe is watching a sappy soap opera. The main characters were being indecent.
Oh boy.
He's watching R-rated soaps here. But this kind of escalates things a little bit between her and Marco. Marco has a good zinger where she's talking about acting like a kid, and he says, no, to act like a kid, you have to eat tin cans, which I think is pretty good.
God. Who
Now-
Marco says that?
Marco says that. It's very funny.
Okay, it is funny then.
Now, Tobias picks up on the fact that Anna here has a crush on Marco, you see. And Jake gets pissed, and he's like, if you break Marco's heart, I'll never forgive you, girl.
That doesn't sound like Jake to me. I feel like Jake would be like, yeah, you can break his heart. It's Marco. It'll be funny.
Yeah, but see, so at this point, Axe, who's still watching his raunchy soap, asks why humans enjoy kissing so much. So
Oh my
she,
god.
so she starts making out with Axe in Human
Whoa.
Morph. Axe morphs human. She starts making out with him in front of Marco. Marco is, he's like, oh my god, he's really jealous. Now Axe says, I did not like the kiss. Is. Marco would have liked it better. Better. Et-ter. And she says, oh, but he doesn't care about me. He doesn't even know me. I know him less than he knows me. So, things are escalating between Anna and Marco at this point.
Well, I'm just gonna. There might be a little axe kissing in one of my stories too. I'll just say that.
Man.
So I like that.
And Captain Nerefear says, Anna is continuing her slow descent down the path to Mary Sudom. It is a slow one, though, and you might yet save her. She isn't too far gone yet.
Okay, this is very meta. Breaking the fourth wall here.
Yeah, no, this is going on here. So, chapter 3 is from Marco's perspective.
How many chapters are there?
Just hold on here.
Oh, you're not going to answer that question? More or less than 10?
Oh, less than 10.
Okay.
This is still one of the shorter ones that I
Okay.
So in this one, we get a lot of... Marco starts off the chapter by saying, Anna was beautiful, I realized, and vulnerable. A moment ago when she was leaning against me, she looked so scared, so sad, so hopeless. I reached out to touch her cheek. So things keep escalating. There's a lot of good Marco here. They find out that they're going to the same school because she's new in town. They're going to Mount of Olives Christian Academy. And Jake gets mad and says, the hell you are! And they get into a fight, and Anna punches Jake out.
What? Why does that make him mad?
I don't know. This is just how Jake is in this fanfic.
But I don't understand. Is it because she's gonna leave Marco or something? So he's mad about that?
I don't know. Maybe he doesn't trust her, or thinks that maybe she's a yerk or something.
Okay.
I just know that in this chapter, Jake says, he says, oh, she hits hard, but I did deserve that. Rachel says, she was mad as a wet hen. Pretty good. And Tobias at one point starts to say the word bloody. He's like, they're moving a bloody whatever, like a British person. And Jake interrupts to tell him not to swear. So I think that's important that we know this person is British too.
Clearly. And I mean, an American's not going to say mad as a wet hen.
Yeah, no, not at all. Nerefear has some things to say. For example, he says there is no curse word that begins with the letters BL. And while the only word I can think of that you might have been using would be bleedy, bloody, or some variant thereof, and while I believe that might be considered cursing in England, it isn't in America where the Animorph series takes place. Okay. He also says Jake is being really inconsistent. First he tells Tobias not to swear, then he says hell. Things are about to heat up here.
All right, let's heat it up, baby.
All right, so this one's a little bit shorter, but Anna has a conversation with Marco, and she says that she used to live with the Andalites from a long time, until about when she was 15. And she says the Yerks know she exists, but they don't know her under this name with this identity. And she's been fighting them since she was 6 years old. Her brothers, she said, I was 6. My brothers were 10 and 14. My other brother, he took a vow of non-interference. He's 30.
What the fuck?
And Nerefear says, uh-oh, looks like Anna's beginning to slip again. So let's finish this up, because this last chapter is where it gets good. Because Axe shows up and greets her Because he recognizes her now. He gets who she is. And he says, "Hello, true one."
Oh shit.
So then there's a time skip to the middle of a battle.
Okay.
It's just like line break. I watched as Visser 3 clamped his human hands more securely around the trigger of the gun that had just barely touched Axe's skull. Uh, so they all he orders them to demorph, so she demorphs first because she can safely do it. But I didn't demorph into this pretty small Hispanic girl of before. I went directly into a grown woman, tall, leggy, and redheaded. The Visser's face
Oh,
blanched. "Why
now
don't
I'm
you let my
interested.
friends go?" I suggested. "Remember well what happened last time." The Visser released the gun and let it clatter to the white tiled floor. "Please, Temptress," he began. "Don't." "Don't what?" I asked, glowering at him. "Don't kill you? Why shouldn't I, Esplin? Tell me why not." My fingers danced across his bearded face. Sparks splayed across his skin, burning him. He didn't dare move away. Are you happy about this
I,
so far?
I need to know where this is going, and I have more questions.
Well, okay. So it's listen.
Yes?
She's a true one, you see.
Yeah. Okay, what's
And
that?
well, okay. She says Aximili is better equipped to explain, to which he says, "You overestimate me, my lady. Um, Andalites have many legends. One concerns child creatures who reach mid-adolescence in mere days after their birth, but spend thousands of trillions of years growing and developing afterwards. Their proper name is the Nan, but we Andalites put such great stock in their reliability and benevolence that we affectionately call them true ones. True ones are terribly curious creatures, not terribly disposed toward minding their own business, but for some reason they disappeared 1,000 years ago. True ones are powerful beyond belief at birth, but they grow in power, doubling their capacity daily. Toward the last 5 million years of their life, true ones stop gaining power and start losing it gradually. There is usually only one who is dying non at a time. As soon as he or she is gone, a new one commences his or her last cycle, and as soon as the last cycle begins, they are new, different creatures, not worthy of Andalite's trust and faith. They're child elemists, you see. The non are young elemists.
But literally, or you're just saying they're like Elamists?
No, this is what it says. The non are young elemists.
Oh, that's in the text. It says
That's in
that.
the text. It says that. Yeah, no, I'm just quoting the text so far.
It's fucking ridiculous.
So,
Oh my god! Except that it's so ridiculous, and also I'm like, yeah, that's probably would be in a real Animorphs book.
I like
Basically, is.
yeah, I mean, I like how it starts off just like, "Oh, she's got a secret. What could it be?" And then it's like, "Oh yeah, some heated, steamy Marco action," and then just right, "Oh, I guess I'm a god. I'm a goddess. Visser 3's begging before me. I'm the temptress." Oh, wait, I forgot. I should have said this fucking. Or maybe I can. This is her talking to Visser 3. Jesus Christ, I forgot how insane this is. I released
Go on.
him, backed up, and began morphing again, very slowly. As I did, I said conversationally, "I'm very fond of these young ones. Perhaps I should maim you severely," I reflected, "or simply torture you. Human men are very fun to torture. That incident in the strip club you're so fond of remembering could be recreated, dearest. Only perhaps you might not enjoy the taste of the stripper's blood quite so much. Or maybe," I continued, "I could take one of your testicles and replace it with a small marble, preferably one that is charged with electricity. It would bring pain to you whenever you sit down, lie down, stand up, breathe, and so on. I could rig it to follow you to whatever body or morph you inhabit." I winked at him.
What the fuck? What the fuck? fucking what strip club? What the fuck? What Mr. 3 doesn't drink anyone's blood? What does that mean? What
Well,
the fuck?
at the strip club, when the time he remembers so fondly.
How are you gonna top this? Why didn't you save this for last?
I I mean, I'm thinking maybe I should have done this second last, but no, I've got one that's better.
What's this one rated? I feel like all mine are like K or T.
Oh, are there
God
ratings on
damn.
these? Oh no, this is just rated T, fiction T.
Well, all right. Oh my god. Oh damn. What the fuck? Electrically charged marble. That is the weirdest, most specific torture idea. That is bonkers.
Yeah. Anyway, Nerefear says, well, I tried, but unfortunately you lost me here. Nerefear tried very hard to not have Anna be a Mary Sue, but didn't work out.
I don't know that does this count as Mary Sue? This is something else. What? Is there a conclusion to this story, or is it another one that just kind of ends?
It just kind of ends. It just ends some more with her and Marco and their relationship and her being super powerful, and it doesn't go on past this.
All right, so there's definitely some. I don't know. I'm reading into this a young Latina girl who maybe fantasizes about being a mature adult redhead. I guess like that's her outlet, and she likes Marco. I don't know.
I don't.
I don't know.
She's got some ideas. Secretly Laughing has
Yeah.
some ideas, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm openly laughing. It's no secret.
All right.
Okay. That was a good one.
Okay. Well, yeah.
People like that one?
It's mostly Nerefear being like, please don't do this the whole time.
Wait, what? What about? But are the reviews positive?
Yeah, no. I was switching to the reviews. The reviews are mostly Nerefear, and after each chapter, his review.
His review is what?
Like after Nerefear was in the reviews. Those were the reviews.
Okay, you've lost me, but it's fine. We're gonna move on.
All right.
Nerefear is male. Is that right?
No, Captain Nerefear was the name of the user who was reviewing the story.
I'm so confused. I thought they were writing the story.
No. No, Nerefear was not part of the story. This is what this other user said about the story.
Wait.
What?
What? Someone else. Wait, they took someone else's story and republished it with their commentary?
Maybe we just drop this whole thing.
Who's Captain Nerefear?
Someone who was writing reviews on this story.
Okay. So you just had both open simultaneously, and you were going back and forth.
Yeah, because it's
you felt it was that impactful that Nerefear's commentary.
I enjoyed the back and forth. I enjoyed watching Nerefear slip into misery trying to save this fanfiction.
I thought Nerefear was like the Greek chorus or something. I thought this was part of the story.
That sounds really good.
Okay, I didn't understand what was happening there. I'm sure our listeners did. Okay, well, like I said, hard to top that one. Mine will not be as insane as that, but I am excited about my last two here.
Mm-hmm.
And these ones start to get a little bit more serious.
Okay.
This next one is called Prisons.
All right.
It is by an author named Forlay, Forlay, and you may even have. It's possible here or somewhere else you'll have stories by this person because they've written a number of Animorphs fan fictions. They seem to have be well regarded amongst Animorphs fan fiction people. They have they have like a few dozen at least. They've got a bunch of these.
Okay.
This one is called Prisons, and I also think it's worth noting that uh, clearly even the Animorphs fanfiction people are sick of self-inserts.
Mm-hmm.
This person has an author's note at the beginning. Now, before you cringe at the thought of another new Animorphs story, this one does have an original twist. This came out in 2000.
Okay.
And I also think it's interesting. It's like 9 chapters, but it's not like you click to the next one. They published all 9 on one page. I don't know. The main character of this one is Catherine. So I'm thinking, is that a tip of the hat to Ka?
Yeah, that could be.
But it's spelled with an Ryn, which I think isn't she Ine, or am I wrong?
Oh, I think so, yes. I think she is INE.
All right. Well, anyway, Catherine is walking through the woods one day when she overhears the Animorphs, as well as some thought speak, I think. And she feels something sharp and cool pressed against her throat. The Animorphs discover her, and they're like, hey, someone's listening in to us. You know, what if it's a Yeerk? Kind of the standard.
Mm-hmm.
That's their general reaction in a lot of these stories is, hey, someone's
Yeah.
listening to us. Are you a Yeerk?
Yeah, yeah. And they're always in the
Makes
woods for some reason. They're never
Yeah,
like
I
in
mean,
the.
I guess the Animorphs do spend. If you're gonna run
Yeah,
into them, they're out in the barn or school. They're probably out like where Tobias hangs out or something, right? I
yeah,
don't
out
know.
in Tobias's meadow. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Anyway, I'm trying to find if I can find where the twist is in the story, the original twist. See if you can figure it out.
Hmm.
Let's see. Well, it's also kind of confusing because it's written in the third person, but it's sort of from Catherine's perspective. Um, I don't know. Here's a part of the beginning. Catherine heard a faint rustling, like several birds landing at once, then an awful sound, grinding and crunching. It sent a chill through her spine. She put her hands over her ears to try and block out the sound. Perhaps she didn't want to talk to whoever these people were. Unfortunately, even with her hands over her ears, she could still hear parts of the conversation. They actually use the correct brackets in this story. There's a space between the words and the brackets, so maybe that's how they got around the HTML
Hmm.
restrictions.
Yeah, that could be.
Um, Anyway, the twist, I'll just tell you, the twist of this one is Catherine is blind.
Whoa.
So like I said, that's her thing. We have albino, British, and now blind.
Hmm.
All things of the same, on the same level of
Don't
condition.
try to put people on the same level as the British.
You're right. I'm sorry
I
about that.
mean,
I
people in
apologize.
general.
Right, right. I understand. So they discover that she's blind, and that's when they're like, hey, she technically hasn't seen anything, so she doesn't know. She keeps referring to this cool thing against her throat. She doesn't realize it's a tail blade because she can't see axe, so she thinks
Hmm.
it's just some kind of a knife or something. So that's sort of the starting gimmick here, and eventually Catherine, they decide, oh, we're gonna let you be an Animorph.
Hmm.
Now, this story I skipped a chapter because it did sound like it's taking place later on in the series, and they were kind of alluding to events that I was like, it just felt spoilery to me.
Hmm. I'm glad you
Uh,
did. Like, I'm pretty sure at least every fanfic I chose at some point, except for maybe that crazy first one, like there's some kind of reference to something, and it's usually offhanded, and you could usually miss it. But
yeah, so my spoiler radar is pretty good. So I skipped some of the stuff. I was like, I could, if I thought about this too hard, I might be able to pick up some pieces here, but I'm not trying to do that. So I skipped over that. Of course, again, there's a whole segment. They take her to the garden. She's got to get all her morphs, blah, blah, blah. Most of the story is not that interesting. It's like, grammatically and everything, it's relatively well written. But what ends up happening is, I think it's very interesting to have a blind Animorph because she, of course, can morph animals, and it's the first time she can see. I guess she's born blind in this story,
Mhm.
and I don't know if that's. Like I said, I don't know if this is a self insert. I'm not sure if that's true of this person in real life or not. I get the sense it's not, but
Hmm.
um, just based on their other stories and the reactions and things like that. But so that reminds me, of course, of Yerks, the whole Yerk parallel of them being like, oh my god, you need to be in a body because of how amazing it is, and turn into a worm, Cassie, stuff like that. And Rachel does all this warning about to her of like, don't get too carried away in these morphs. It's dangerous. I know it's amazing to be able to see, but don't stay in it for more than 2 hours and all this stuff. And the end of this one is, she decides to she voluntarily becomes a Nothlit.
Ooh.
She morphs into an owl, and she leaves a note like for her parents and for the other Animorphs, telling them what happened. And the last sentence, or the last line is, she turned around on the windowsill to face out. She spread her wings and glided out, leaving behind all the prisons she had known, to finally know what freedom was.
Wow.
Yeah,
Kind of a
it's a
kindred soul with Tobias here.
very much. It's actually, I was kind of confused because I'm pretty sure she becomes an owl, but there is a part near the end where it says she was trapped as a hawk, and I'm not sure if that was a. I think that was just a mistake. I think she's an
Hmm.
owl, but I did find it weird. Like, she doesn't try too many species. She pretty quickly decides owl's the bird for me, and sticks with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, similar to Tobias.
that's true. Well, his was sort of less of a choice, but
It's sort of less of a choice, but he was clearly thinking about it.
perhaps. Um, but I thought this was a pretty. It's like kind of a sad, dark story. And I don't know about dark, but she trades her life. I think there's some lip service that her parents maybe don't love her that much or something, but she
Hmm.
trades her life away for the ability to see, even if it's as a bird. Which I bet blind people a lot of them would probably find this idea very offensive, is my
Yeah,
guess.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But
But they can't read this
uh,
story, so
that's right. They can, yeah.
I'm gonna get
But
canceled.
but that's why we're here to help them out, so they know what to get mad at.
Yes, right, exactly. You're doing you a
But
favor.
I think we covered on some of that too in the departure episode. But
Hmm.
I do feel there's a lot there, of would a blind person, if you gave them the ability to morph, maybe they would make that choice, or other disabilities perhaps. This will come up in my last story too. And like, most of the story is not, this particular fanfic is kind of by the numbers, with the exception of her being blind, but uh, it was a twist. As
Hmm.
promised, it was a twist, and I thought it was well written enough. And like I said, it seems like a lot of people liked it. Some people, a lot said that it was just way too sad, and they did not like the idea of someone becoming a Nothlit. They thought it was too depressing.
And these are Animorphs readers?
I guess so. I
Like
guess
it
so.
is
Yeah.
it is like a fun twist on it, but it's not an entirely new concept to the series. Like this is sort of Tobias's arc. Like she
Well,
chooses to do it
what's
here, but
an interesting thing in this one is, it seems like it doesn't. She's not like becoming an Animorph. It seems like she's
mm,
becoming an owl, and then she's just like, I'm gonna fuck off now and be a bird.
mhm,
So yeah, she's not in it to save the world. She just wants to be a bird.
yeah. But like let's be real. Do you think that Tobias would get trap himself in human morph if there were no Yerks to fight, or do you think he would stay a bird at this point in the series?
Yeah, at this point, he's living that bird life, baby.
Right, exactly. So like I feel, but there's some overlap with similar concepts there. So it seems odd that people would be like, "Oh, that's too I love Animorphs, but that's too sad."
Yeah, well, they were just so, Tobias comes so early on; they're used
Hmm.
to it. This is a new character, Catherine, who they love.
That's true. And I guess this is an entire story building up to the arc of that happening rather than like it happened and now the arc is dealing with it, and now that you've dealt with it, if you have the opportunity to go back to you. Like, you know what I mean? Like it feels more like a loss when you start with not the bird, as opposed to when you start with the bird and you have the opportunity. whatever. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I get it. Anyway, that's Prisons
Mm.
by Forlay, which is that it definitely is the kind of, this is deep if you're 15, but I don't know,
Yeah.
it's kind of deep.
Yeah.
Prisons, like it's got metaphors in it.
They're
That's pretty
trying.
good.
They're
Yeah,
trying. Yeah. No,
right.
that is a lot better than most everything that I found.
Well, what's another one you found?
All right. I mean, how much time do we have left? Do
We have
we?
as much time as we fucking want. I mean, I have one more after this, which is a longer one, but that's my last
Okay,
one.
because I have two more here. But they're both longer, and there's one that I really want to get to, the most. So I
Well,
could
do
do it.
whatever you want. If you want to just sum one up, speed through one faster, and then
All
do the
right,
one you want,
let's
I don't
let's
know.
speed through this one, even though it is half the length of an Animorphs book.
Sure.
So this one here is written by Pixie Squirrel. Uh, this was written in June of 2000. It's called The New Ally, and the description is: there's a new Animorph that isn't human, and Axe has something against them. There's something to do with Marco and them, too, hee hee hee. This is my first non-insane Animorphs fic, so please review. Author's note: this is my first serious fic. Sorry if they're OOC. I know Eric is OOC. It's easier for me to write the insane ones, like Attack of Crazy Pixie and Demented Squirrel. Yeah, I wrote that one with Emily, aka Squirrel. So, hope
Oh
you
boy.
like it. So this one
Yeah.
actually, that opening makes you think it's going to be a certain kind of way, and it's not that bad.
Okay. All right.
Now, if you go read her more insane stories, yes, they are that bad. Like, I went and I read that story, and I read some other Animorph stories that she wrote. But so basically, this is about a girl named Alexia. Um, and Alexia is approached by Eric because Eric has found out that she is not actually a human, even though she looks like a human. She thinks that she's a human, but actually, she is a Goltan, which is an alien
Mm,
race. You see. I don't know if
okay.
you know these.
Is that a real one?
No.
Okay.
So the what's
Why
a
would I
couple
know it then? Go on.
a couple of interesting points here about this. So the Goltan, and like I said, I will just speed through it. The Goltans have
Isn't
a
Goltan in like Mortal Kombat or something? Isn't that
um,
somebody? All right, go
it's
ahead.
possible. Goltans have time power, so she can like do weird time freezes and time stretches. So because of this, she gets to morph for 4 hours instead of 2 hours without getting trapped. Um, she also throughout the story keeps
Hmm.
having flash forwards, like in book 11, but that never really gets. They finish a story, but they never really pay off that part. Also, interestingly,
Hmm.
because the Goltans were the enemies of the Andalites, Axe is very much opposed to giving her the morphing power, like right off the bat. So Axe this whole time is very much a naysayer. He does not want a Goltan here.
Fucking
Um,
gold hands.
fucking Goltans. But I think my favorite part about this story is that, like I said, it's half the length of an Animorphs book. Probably 3/4 of it could just be described as an extended barn scene because it's just the Animorphs standing around talking. And so, like, I'm not gonna say it's all hit. It's very hit or miss, but like, there's a lot of it in terms of them attempting to do banter here.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
so, for example, for example, she says, "How can a bird talk? And what is he? He looks like an experiment of Dr. Frankenstein that went wrong." Axe asks, "Who is Dr. Frankenstein?" "He's a doctor that made Frankenstein," answered the guy who I thought was funny. "Who is Frankenstein?" asked Axe again, still confused. "I'll explain later," Axe said, the first guy that talked to me. And then he looked towards me. Axe is an Andalite. He isn't an experiment of Dr. Frankenstein, as you may have noticed by his not knowing who Dr. F even is. They could all see that I was still confused.
I like he shortens it to Dr. F now.
Yeah, no, it's too many letters. We don't have time for that.
Dr. F. Go ahead. It's good banter.
It is good banter. Like I said, I did want to speed through this one here, which is really kind of, I mean, mostly what I would want to do is that, but like, so this has a lot of the standard things. Did you encounter a lot of times where people just spent forever morphing?
Not really, or if there were, I'd probably just skip through those parts.
Interesting. Yeah, because there is like a whole chapter here that's just her morphing for the first time the way there would be.
Right, which is, yeah, I'm like, I've read this enough in the books proper. I don't need to read this person's interpretation of it.
Yeah, yeah. A lot more banter, a lot of acts attempting to laugh at jokes and being awkward. Um, Quite good. They do have it ends in a climax under the school because they discover that the school pool has a hologram at the bottom, and so they can swim to the bottom, and there's a door there that goes into the Yerk pool. It should be
All
noted
right.
that when they go and do this first attack on the Yerk pool, they get down there and they're like, "Oh, hey, by the way, Alexia, did we give you any morphs yet?" And she's like, "No." Which
That's par for the course.
that is par for the course. Um, yeah, I mean, I honestly kind of like this story just for being very stupid. It's not good in any way whatsoever, but it does feel like the author is trying to do something here, and I appreciate how much time is spent just playing around with the banter. That's one of my favorite parts in Animorphs, is
Yeah,
how much time
yeah.
they go
That's
back and forth. But
they
yeah, if
need
I
just
were going
like
to
a
spend a lot of time, I would just be reading a lot of excerpts.
yeah. We'll let the listeners do that on their own time, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
You want like the Dazed and Confused with Animorphs characters or something, or Clerks with Animorphs characters.
Yeah, that is exactly what I want.
What was this one called again?
This one is called The New Ally,
The New Ally, Alexia. A
Alexia.
lot of did you notice gender you know thing? It seems like most of mine were from female perspectives.
Yes, but not exclusively so for me. I
Yeah.
think a lot of the more interesting ones were from female perspectives. I'm pretty sure this is just like reflecting a bias in the user base of fanfiction.net. Um,
Hmm.
like I would expect going into any fanfic to see a lot more written by girls, just because that's what the demographic looks like.
Got it. I'm a little. Maybe it was like too early for people to be aware of this, or maybe now there, or maybe there are some because I didn't look at a lot of these. I'm sure there's plenty more, but it feels like I'm surprised I didn't run into more self inserts of like LGBTQ kind of perspectives of like a non-straight cis animorph.
That is
Seems like
kind
a
of strange.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
guessing at the time these were written, most of these were like, as we said, late 90s, early 2000s. Probably if you're like 13 or 14 in that time period, if you would be part of that group, you might not have even had the words or awareness to
mhm.
express it, maybe.
Yeah, that is fully possible. And some of these might be like that unknowingly, where people are writing self-insert characters as the opposite
Mm,
gender or something, and that's just not
right.
clear.
Right. Like all of mine, which are mostly steamy Marco sex stories.
Oh, I love the steamy Marco sex stories.
Oh, come on. Now. He is underage, man. That's
And throw
in
some axe in there too.
well, in my stories he is aged up. They're all 18. They
Okay,
still are
so
in
it's
they're still in middle school. Like everything is the same. It's just I say they're 18. Okay.
like how they do it in Japan.
Yeah, and the Elemist is actually 5,000 years old, so he's cool too.
Yeah, no, that's all fine.
Did you want to jump into yours or save your other one you want to save for
You can
last?
you can do your last thing if you want, and then we'll get
Okay,
this.
it's a good finale. Your last one. I just
I
want
think
to.
it probably will be. I hope so.
Okay, great. Well, my next one is called Kate,
Okay.
and I have a feeling, I can't remember. I think you find out that yeah, her full name is also Catherine. So I'm again, either this is people are paying tribute to Kay Applegate, or maybe people with the same name as her are attracted to that fact and just like that about the series. I don't know. But
Hmm.
this one begins. My name is Kate. You probably don't know my name. You know what? I should have said who's. Sorry, it's by La Angel, or perhaps
L'Angel.
L'Angel. Yeah. And they have written 5 Animorphs fanfics that are on here. This is the one I've chose here.
Hmm.
Anyway, my name is Kate. You probably don't know my name, but you might recognize names of my friends: Jake, Marco, Axe, Tobias, Cassie, and Rachel. And you know the drill. No last names, can't tell you where we live. If you're reading this, you probably know the whole Yerk invasion thing, so I won't bore you with a recap of all that stuff. Let me tell you, later on, though, I do get bored with recaps of all that stuff because she still has the scenes where she meets the Animorphs and they go through a lot of exposition. This is a long one. This one is 40. This is the longest one I read,
Oh,
40,000
geez.
words, 5 chapters. Yeah, it's big.
That's big, yeah.
And it's funny that we both kind of found different recurring gimmicks because again, this time Kate's thing is that she has leukemia. Okay,
Hmm.
yeah, that's her. Which I have to assume, based on reading this, that this is. I don't know. It feels like it's based in truth from the author, but maybe not. Maybe I'm just assuming, but. I don't know, like they or maybe someone they knew, or they just watched a lot of TV. This was released in 2000, or first published in '99. There's just a lot of stuff about chemotherapy that feels like they must have known about this for they had firsthand experience somehow.
Hmm.
Um, and she talks about how like she's gone through chemotherapy and radiation, and like her hair fell out and she's like thinner now, and she meets Rachel, and that's one of the things is she's like kind of jealous of Rachel because she's like, I used to be beautiful too, and now I look stupid or whatever.
Mm.
It's like it's very interesting stuff. And then she she meets all the friends, and that's one of the plot points early on is that again, this is another one where her parents are going to the sharing meetings, and she doesn't know that it's bad yet. They
Hmm.
want her to come. I think they know Chapman or something as a family friend. I don't know. And she meets the Animorphs, doesn't tell them she has cancer because she doesn't want to be ostracized by her new friends. But then Rachel calls the house and her mom says, "Oh, no, she just came back from chemotherapy." And Kate's like, "Oh, mom." But it's okay because Rachel doesn't treat her any differently. So
Aw.
that's very, isn't that nice? She still
That's
wants to go
nice.
shopping with her.
Isn't that nice?
Anyway, she finds out, I don't even remember how. Oh, she ends up going to the sharing meeting, but like the Animorphs are there and they have a big fight, and I think she just sees Jake morphing out of a dog and she's like, "What the fuck?" And that's so they decide to just tell her about it all. And they give her the morphing power,
Hmm.
and immediately she says like, "Hey, what happens if I have cancer? If I morph, will I will that be bad, or will I not have cancer?" And Axe is like, "I don't know." He basically is like, "I don't think it's bad. I don't really know." And it turns out it does not affect. Like she still has cancer, which I don't know. Canonically, would it? Wouldn't it get rid of your disease? Or I don't know.
Depends on the disease. So, like, if it might not because the cancer might be because of some kind of fuckery with like the genetics of those cells. Y-
Interesting,
You know what I'm
huh?
saying?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I understand a little bit because I'm stupid, so not fully, but because in my head I'm like the way it would work, just as a different example, is like if you're born without a leg, then morphing won't give you a leg, I'm assuming, but if your leg
Yeah.
gets cut off, then it will give you back the leg.
Yeah.
I guess. um but it did raise an interesting question of like, if you could cure cancer with morphing, then is it like unethical for the Animorphs not to give all cancer patients morphing powers and heal them? But
Yep.
I don't know. That's maybe not within the scope of the series. I don't know if that will ever come up. Um, but anyway,
I wonder if do you think this feels like it invalidates the need for most Andalite medicine? Like, you just don't need medics anymore.
right. Well, Andalite medicine will come up in this.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean, how to. So, anyway, right now it's like, okay, it's a standard. She becomes an Animorph, but her thing is she has cancer, so that's like part of it. It gets a wilder from there as she develops a romance. I don't know who. Take a guess which of the members she develops a romance with. Well, I guess I already
Well,
gave it away, didn't I?
yeah, I was gonna say I may have clicked to part two here.
Oh, and I alluded to it earlier, but it's Axe. It is Axe. It
Yeah.
is, and there's stuff early on where it's like, oh, Axe is kind of looking at her and interested in her, and she like invites him over to Netflix and chill, basically.
Hmm.
And he shows up in his human morph, and they kiss because she's
Hmm.
she's like talking about how ugly she is now, and Axe is like, I think you're beautiful, and the trajectory of this whole story is uh Axe falling in love with her, and the other Animorphs are like, we've never seen him show any interest in any human or anyone before. This is so weird, but you two have this amazing connection with each other. And there's a lot of very sappy romance stuff between them. Extremely, like, I think they kiss twice. Like, that's as far as that goes. But emotionally, they tell each other they love each other at a certain point. This
Hmm.
is basically The Fault in Our Stars, but with Animorphs.
When was that written?
I gotta think that was later. I think this predates that.
It feels,
But
yeah, but I don't know.
yeah, I'm not sure. But certainly the movie. The
Oh
book I
yeah, the
thought.
movie for sure.
Um, and the cancer ends up coming back. Kate finds out. Oh, and by the way, also their thing is that he calls her Catherine and she calls him Aximili instead of Axe. That's like their cute pet
Mm.
names or their full names for each other.
Yeah.
It's really cute. And again, this is a long story. Like, it's very
Mhm.
thorough.
Oh yeah,
So she ends up needing a bone marrow transplant. And there's a whole, like, also just say this right now. There's almost no Animorph stuff in this book. Like, in terms of battling the Yerks and all that, none of that happens. It's basically a girl with cancer and her boyfriend just happens to be Axe. Like, that's most of this story. And like the other Animorphs just kind of are her friends. But it's not really the fact that they're Animorphs, that there's Yerks. It's not super relevant.
yeah. I'm
Um,
reading the parts here. It's part one: the joining, the kiss, the conversations, the dream, and the letters.
yes, correct. So I guess I'm on the conversation, but
Mhm.
anyway, she ends up being in the hospital for most of like the second half of this story with Axe. It's just about her experience, like, post bone marrow transplant, as Axe visits her in different morphs and in human morph to like sweet talk her and say how sad he is. And then there's also a whole arc where she's religious and she's like praying with these rosary beads, and she asks Axe if he believes in God, and Axe is like, no, I believe in science, there's no evidence of a God. And there's much given to her trying to convince Axe to pray for her and to believe in a God.
This is amazing. I love
And
this.
shockingly to me, it doesn't really, like, I was fully waiting for him to be like, I do believe in God. It doesn't really quite get there. I think he does pray for her at one point,
Mhm.
but he's sort of still like on the fence about the God thing by the end of it, I think.
Mm.
Um, and then then what happens is she dies.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
She does die in the end. Axe becomes extremely depressed. He's like not eating. All the other Animorphs are worried. He won't leave his scoop. By the way, clearly this person is like knows their Animorphs shit, because there's a lot of references to, the scoop and other kind of terms in there.
Hmm.
And but it turns out it gets even weirder. Before Kate dies, on her literal deathbed, she's visited by what I thought was the Elemist, but I think it might just be a literal angel. I truly am not sure. And
Mm.
makes this offer to her that she can come back like as a spirit. And the other Animorphs kind of see her as a peregrine falcon, but she's also like a spirit who they can't see, and she can talk and move around like a ghost and come to their conversations. And then she also gets the power to speak to them in their dreams. So at the end, she visits her parents and acts in dreams to tell them like everything's going to be okay and move on with your life now. And yes, she also writes a letter for each Animorph, which you can read, and each one basically reads as a like from a fan, like, Jake, here's what you need to know. Like, don't beat yourself up for being being the leader. You're doing a great job. And like, Rachel, your anger issues, like, very really covering like all the bases you need to. Is my chance to give the Animorphs a message right now. Uh, it's a wild story. I was kind of gasping and shocked and also laughing during a lot of it. They seem to, from some of the authors' notes, they seem to think that the character of Axe is maybe done dirty in these books, and that they wanted to
Mm.
give him more dimension, and they
Mm.
thought
Mhm.
like he could be a love interest. He could be a little fleshed out more and feel more human in that way. And it is interesting because we see Elfangor be, play that role, but Axe seems kind of asexual.
Hmm.
uh, but I don't know. Maybe that changes. But
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, that's the story. I mean, it's a wild one.
I like this story. I like how this person did just want to basically tell a like fault in our stars, like, what if I died and somebody was in love with me? Ooh, type of Romeo
Yes.
and Juliet teenage fantasy style story. But then they also wanted it to be the Animorphs because they're an Animorphs
Yes.
fan. So why wouldn't it be an Andalite who does that?
It is a convenient way to make yourself the center of the story and like be the very
Hmm.
sympathetic sad character, which again maybe it's based on, I don't know, maybe they really had cancer. I don't, maybe not. They had a lot of reviews on this one.
Hmm.
I like, someone said this was a great story. I just wish Kate didn't die. Please make a sequel and get Kate alive.
That's really good.
I don't. Someone was complaining that the story wasn't plausible because why would Kate be the only one to hear Jake barking during the beach fight? Other stupid things.
Oh, I think
Um,
I'm seeing this one. Is this the person who says, I guess one of my big issues with the story is that it centers around Kate and Axe's relationship as well as Kate's battle with leukemia? With just
that's
like,
right.
yeah, that's what you said to me. That's what the story's about.
Yeah, that's what makes it fan fiction. You know, that's
Yeah.
the part that's unique. Yeah, a lot of people saying it made them cry and stuff. Like, it's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's kind of, it's very sappy and a little the kids might say cringe in parts,
Mm-hmm.
but it's it's one of the better written ones that I found. I was pretty impressed by it. That's Kate. I don't
Mm.
know.
Oh, yeah, I also like this person saying, even though I'm an atheist, that was so touching.
Yeah. The
I
religious, that's where I really thought the story was going to lose me. I thought it was going to really go hard on like you should believe in a god, and it didn't quite, it wasn't bad enough to lose me. So,
I'm real happy that that's in there. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Want to see
yeah.
I want to see Sonic on his knees praying to God for forgiveness on the rosary. That's
Yeah.
what I want out of my fanfics.
All
Yeah,
right,
it
give
sounds like you
us.
picked kind of a serious, like an actual story here,
Yes, no,
in
it's
a way.
very dramatic. Like I said, I started with the dumbest one there could be and ended on a very serious emotional one. So,
Yeah, I don't know if any of mine got very serious, but I love this one that I got here for you.
okay, let's
All
do it.
right.
Bring us
So this
home.
one is The New Beginning by Terry One.
Sure.
New person is added to the group, an Andalite female. Axe may be falling for her, but she has a secret.
Whoa.
All right. I'm just going to open this for you here. First
Okay.
line of the story. My name is Esplin9466. My rank is Visser 1. I am a Yerk, a slug who, and then it goes on to describe what a Yerk is. I control
Uh-huh.
the only Andalite controller in the universe, but it hadn't always been that way. Alma 934 was so weak. Her body trembled at every little disturbance. Alma, I said softly. My hand stroked her face gently. So, the opening of this story, we find out that Visser 3 used to be in love with another Yerk before he took over the invasion of of Earth. This Yerk, Alma 934, was infesting another Andalite. And those two Andalites, controlled by the Yerks, had a baby named Laren Mahin Somer.
Holy shit.
So this is your intro here. Um, and on her deathbed, Alma makes Esplin promise that that Laren will be protected from the Yerk and Andalite war, and will live separately. Um, but where does this happen exactly?
Is the self-insert in this one the Yerk, or it's the child of the
It's
Yerks,
the
I guess?
child. It's the child, because this is just the intro. Because what ends up happening here is that the Elemist shows up and
Of
basically
course.
says that he can hide Laren on Earth, right? So Laren will be basically morphed into a human, but she'll still be able to demorph, but she'll have all her memories erased, so she won't know she's an Andalite or Visser 1's or 3's daughter. At this point, at the story, it would be Visser 1. But she won't know that she's his daughter. Um, so Laren is the self-insert here.
Laren.
Laren.
Not
Yes.
Lauren. Laren.
Not Lauren. And that's going to get confusing. So we start up here with Rachel attempting to prepare Axe and Marco to go to a school dance. Right. Axe is going to show up to the dance, and Marco is also going to the dance, and he needs to dress up pretty because he has a date.
This is great. This is a great classic opening setting.
Yeah. Yeah. Now Marco has a date with Anya. You know the character Anya, of course, right?
From Buffy.
Honestly, so Anya is not explained really in any way. She's treated as though she has been here this entire time. Anya used to be Visser 3's head tech person, but he was going to kill her, like head tech Yerk. But he was going to kill her. And so the Animorphs rescue her, or they, in the past, this happened in the past. This is all backstory. Right now we're opening. So, but they gave her the morphing power, and she did a Frolus maneuver on them and became a Nothlit. So Lauren was a Yerk who is Visser 3's tech person, but is now a human girl. And so she's kind of awkward because she used to be an alien, but she's got like inside knowledge, but some of them don't trust her because she used to be evil, and she's dating the jokester. So yes, this is Anya from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She's just here, and she's dating Marco.
Wait, now hold on.
Uh-huh.
So she's a controller?
No. She is a Yerk trapped in human morph.
Because she used to be have an Andalite?
No.
They gave her. Oh, they gave the Yerk form.
The Andalites
morphing.
gave the Yerk morphing power so she could become a Nothlit. And this used to be Visser 3's tech person.
Okay.
This is totally separate from the intro to the story.
Okay.
Another separate fact that's
like
different from the intro that has nothing to do with any, like, it's just here, is that Elfangor is just here. I don't know how. They don't explain how he survived, what's going on with any of that. It does come up later on that he doesn't have his universal translator chip because he got eaten. But there's no explanation as to why he's alive and around. But he's here.
Elemist, probably.
Sure. Uh, so we see Axe at the dance, and Axe starts talking and dancing with this girl Liz at the dance. I wonder who Liz could be because they hit it off, right? Because
Mm,
normally, people would be put off by Axe, but Liz is totally cool. She thinks he's charming, right? Um,
naturally.
Naturally, yeah. Who wouldn't? Um, but but they all go home from the dance. Okay. This all happens, and let's see. They have a whole get together here. Oh, but then Anya comes in because she has discovered, because she can still get into Visser 3's computer files, right? And Visser 3 still, he keeps tabs on Laren, who is secretly Liz. And so she's discovered that Liz is an Andalite. She doesn't know who she is, but she knows that she's an Andalite, and she can turn into an Andalite because, quote, something screwed up when she was forced to morph human, and her morphing clock hasn't stopped yet, though, unquote. So this is what Anya's helping out with.
Her morphing clock hasn't stopped yet?
This is Elemist shit explicitly. That
Meaning that she could morph back.
she could morph back, but her memories have been erased.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So then we jump to Liz's perspective. Liz is around here with her dad when some controllers show up at her house. Some big burly guys show up because apparently Subvisor 12 has figured out that she's actually an Andalite. He doesn't know she's Visser 3's son. So they attack her house, and they kill her dad, and they blow up the house. Right. So Liz's dad is dead at this point. And the Animorphs show up to save her. Right.
Okay.
So they run in. Uh, Visser, we get some scenes with Visser 3, and the Elemist shows up and talks to him and says, oh, she's going to be safe with the Andalite bandits. I know that you're mad that the bandits have your daughter, but they wouldn't hurt her. Because Visser 3 is very upset. He doesn't want his daughter to be hurt. He doesn't want her to get drawn into the war or find out, right?
Of course.
Of course, yeah.
He knows he has a daughter.
Right. No, of course
But
he knows he has a daughter, yeah.
But what does he think happened to her?
He made a deal with the Elemist. So the
Oh.
Elemist gave her a human family and put her in a human body so that she would be safe from the Yeerk War.
This is really painting Visser 3 in a more positive light.
Oh yeah, Visser 3 is I mean, once we get into the self-inserty stuff, Visser 3 is the self-insert's dad. So, and he's very protective of her.
And he is kind of a daddy.
That's true. Yeah.
Visser 3 could be a good Christian Grey type.
Yeah, I think you got a good point here.
Anyway.
Yeah. It's worth noting that one of the reasons they found out who she is also is because she can tell time without a watch. And when her controller friend Katie heard about it, she was like, oh, that must be an Andalite.
Right.
Right. There's nothing else that...
No, that's how you would know the time.
Yeah.
You didn't have a watch.
Right. She doesn't even need a watch here.
I was just going to say Visser 3 in this story is kind of a DILF, so...
A Yilf, maybe?
Well, that too. He's always that.
Yeah. And she even...
Yeah? What'd she do? Go on.
I was going to say, she demonstrates her time-telling abilities. But Lauren, oh my god.
Laren, please.
Laren learns her real name is Laren, not Liz. She demorphs into an Andalite. She's an exceptionally beautiful Andalite, and Axe immediately falls for her. She's like deep purple as opposed to bluish purple, She's like special.
She's singing Highway to the... no, Life is a Highway? Is that... What did they sing? Is that what they sang? Life is a Deep Purple? Life is a Highway. Is that
who
Purple?
sings that?
I don't know. What's Deep Purple sing? They sing something.
They sure do. Our users will, our listeners will know. I feel like my brain is breaking with all this fanfic.
No, you're doing great. Smoke on the Water is Deep Purple.
That's true.
No, wait. Is that? Yeah, that's that. Wait, so who the fuck sings Life is a Highway? Rascal Flats. That's not even close. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I feel like I'm losing you.
Yeah, well, okay, keep going. We're almost there. You just got to bring this fanfic home for us.
Oh, but there's so much more because see, Laren goes to. Well, the first thing that we have to see is we have to see Laren. She wants to do her cheerleading practice, right? Because she has cheerleading. And Jake's like, no, you can't do that. It's too dangerous. But she does anyway, and she's great. And the Animorphs are all super impressed at how good she is as a cheerleader.
Wow.
And then she has to fight off some quarterbacks because some quarterbacks attack her because they're yerks. But she just beats them up as a human.
Okay. Cool.
We get
They
a lot
know
of.
they're yerks outwardly, or they're just bullying her as kids.
No, they show up and they're like, "Oh, hey, Laren," and she's like, "I know your controllers," and then they're like, "Arr," and then there's a big fight scene,
Oh, okay.
and she beats them up.
So she's not
Um,
being very secretive.
no, not really.
Okay, it's fine.
Yeah, so Laren learns about her mom, uh, who is
Who's
named
kind of a milf,
Karama
by the way.
Quiller Trollo. That's the
Yeah,
Andalite.
that's hot.
Mm-hmm. Uh, so okay. I need because I feel like you're not ready for
I'm ready.
her mom. I just need to find the exact line here.
Yeah, let's just take it one step at a time. We have, just to recap, we have Liz is really Laren,
Yes.
the daughter of Visser 3 and another Yerk who we're going to find out about now.
Yes.
And there's also Anya, but it sounds like she's not really like part of the plot. She's just a new character who's there.
Yeah, she's just around. She's not important, but she's here.
Right.
All right. So basically Laren ends up discovering that she's Visser 1's or Visser 3's daughter here. I keep confusing because it's Visser 1 in this story.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
So
Espin.
when she talks about this, Elfangor talks with her. Elfangor sighed. Laren, I knew your mother. Karama was well known for her doings. Doings? She slept around. She found anyone she could. I remember her disappearance was barely noticed. I breathed hard. My mother had been a prostitute. My father was a disgraced, infested war prince. Could this get any worse?
Wait. But Elfangor's referring to the Andalite. So, okay, but that's not.
I feel like I need to draw you a diagram for this story.
That's not really. I mean, physically, that's her mom, but
Right.
like her mom is a
It's Alma.
Yerk.
Yeah, Alma the Yerk.
This is very confusing. This is very mess. I mean, this is what must happen with all the Hork-Bajir too. Like
That's true, yeah.
it's a fucked up concept of like there is truly rape happening amongst the Yerk army constantly. Like to procreate and create more Hork-Bajir.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
I refuse to pronounce it correctly. It's
I
Bajir.
will be saying Bajir from now on because I like to be correct.
I mean, yes, it is some fucked up shit, for sure.
And that's what's happening here as well.
And that is what's happening here as well. Now, the story goes to some more crazy places where, Laren gets to make out with Axe. Of course she does. It's pretty sensual. I'm not gonna lie.
Sorry.
It's probably a little too hot to read on air.
Yeah. That's from my private time later.
Yeah. But eventually Elfangor realizes that Lauren must still be alive, and so he and Tobias go and rescue. They find Lauren and they rescue her because controllers are coming for her too, I guess. So Lauren and Laren are both in this story.
Okay.
And of course, Laren kicks everyone's ass, right? She shows up and just kills all the Hork-Bajir like it's nothing. There's a good scene where Chapman shows up and you know he knows he can't hurt Laren because she's Visser 3's daughter and he'll be pissed. So he's like, "Ooh, you just wait till I tell your father about this." Um, you know, it's good and
You gave my daughter detention.
yeah, it's very nice. We get like some reunion scenes between Laren and and Visser 3, and the Elemis shows up again at some point. And you know, we end on a scene with Laren making out with Axe again.
That's what I like.
Uh,
That's the end? That's where it ends?
that's where it ends. Yeah,
So
because
there's not really a conclusion to this.
not really. There could be more.
Okay, narratively, there's not like this is the end.
Not really. No, I don't think it arcs toward any kind of real like. There's 18 chapters. It's 22,000 words. It's mostly just continuing to add more stuff onto what we've already got.
Okay, this is a weird one, huh?
Uh-huh.
Very weird ideas. I like that they kind of did. I don't know. It's almost like a multiverse.
Mhm.
It's like an alternate. That is what it kind of feels like. This is another alternate dimension where Elfangor didn't die and all this other stuff happened. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the extreme complexity of the lore. I like how many crazy concepts they just throw out there and how many things they attempt to tackle in terms of, oh, well, you gotta go rescue Lauren. Oh, well, we have this Elemist thing. Oh, well, you know, she's gotta go to cheerleading practice.
Yeah, well, it's very Applegate-esque, isn't it? Any one of
it
these
is.
things could have been its own story. But no.
It
Fit
easily
them all
could have
in there.
been. And I feel like I'm honestly underselling it. It was a lot of fun to read. Like I said, it's not really what you'd call good. It's very rambling, but I enjoyed reading it. And every time something new happened, it was just like, oh my god, we're doing more. There's more.
What's this one called?
This one is called The New Beginning.
Great. That's a great title.
Yeah, no, they're all called The New Beginning. Every single
That's
story.
after the last Animorphs book. Now it's the new beginning.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
Mhm.
because it's called yeah. Now the comments on this all love it. You know, it's all like way cool, really good story.
Yeah.
Continue to
these
update.
that's what these kinds of fanfic writers, they want that lore. They want like all these crazy ideas, you know. That's what they're after. Cuz I bet in any fan fiction community, 90% of them are just like Harry Potter fucking went to school today and you know, like there's like when there are probably so many of them are just so boring and don't take risks that people are going to get excited about anything like this.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I'm wondering if this might speak to what we were looking at too. That you went for like a real story that just had Animorphs inserted in. I'm going more for like how much crazy Animorph shit can we tack onto its own end.
Yeah, interesting. Like I said, mine were completely. I basically just found like the first 5 I liked and just went with it. But we did find some. I feel like the common themes here, like as we kind of mentioned before, some kind of disability or syndrome or thing that makes the character an outcast, or a power of some kind, and also a lot of romance with Axe, and maybe a little with Marco. Right, that's 3 stories had Axe romance.
Yeah, there was a reasonable amount of it. People want to
fuck Andalites.
They sure do.
That's what they want, man. How can you blame them? God damn. I mean, people already want to fuck horses. Like now you can kiss them. Jesus, that's what I want.
Axe is a JRHMBR. That's what I'm saying.
You can't really kiss them. They don't have mouths, but they can.
I mean, in this one, they do make out as Andalites, where they like approach each other and start stroking each other's faces passionately. It's described in detail.
Yeah, that's hot. That's hot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, I had a lot of fun reading my fanfics, and I had fun hearing about yours. And we're gonna do it again next time.
We are.
And
Next time,
yeah,
No,
please,
just say your thing.
please. Next week we're going to be covering crossover fan fiction. So we are going to be looking at Animorphs fanfics crossed over with different fictions. What's the word I'm looking for? Properties, IPs.
Franchises.
Sure. So look forward to that, because that's going to be a real doozy, folks. And if you are one of the authors of one of these fan fictions and you want to apologize or explain yourself, or maybe you have written your own fanfic, or you found another fanfic in this category that we didn't mention, you can email us. Hold on, no, not come on now.
You can do it.
The Yerky Boys.
Keep it together.
At gmail.com. Check us out over there. If you want to follow me on the internet personally, you can. I have a website. It's jonathanestes.com. That's because that's my name with a .com after it. And you can find all my fun projects there and other podcasts, stuff, YouTubes. Go ahead. Check it out.
And you can find me on Blue Sky at Dog Times. Thanks everyone for listening. Tune in next time when we will be continuing our journey through the world of fan fiction. This time specifically looking at crossovers on the Yerky Boys.